This right here is the Bonsai Diary, a draw and journal game created by Gene Koo. A big thank you to them for sending me a copy, and I'm going to now stop waving the game around. In this game, you take on the role of generations of different growers as they all tend for and care for the same bonsai tree, a tree that you, the player, actually create using different pen strokes or pencil strokes or stickers or whatever artistic medium you want to use, as long as you can trace said artistic medium. We'll talk about that more in a little bit. It is an incredibly simple game to pick up, but in its simplicity is its beauty, and I had a very wonderful time playing this game, a very profound and meaningful experience playing this game, and I want to talk about that, so let's do that. So I want to get one thing out of the way before we continue our review of the Bonsai Diary, and that is, when I was first sent my copy of this game, I was incredibly nervous to play it, because I knew when I played this game, I was then going to eventually make a video about it, and then I was most likely going to want to show off the tree I created. I'm very self-conscious about my ability to draw, illustrate, paint, anything that involves those skills. I'm very self-conscious about. I did go to art school, but my areas of study were in filmmaking and photography, and the idea of having to draw something and then show it to a bunch of people kind of was giving me flashbacks of those foundation drawing classes that I had to take that I was very bad at. And I also was worried that my lack of skill was going to hamper my experience with this game. And I want to let you know, if you have those same worries, I had a wonderful experience with this game. My ability to create with pen and markers, and actually I did go out and pick a bunch of watercolor markers up for this game because I really wanted to go full in. My quote-unquote lack of ability to create or produce something that I thought was good did not hamper this game at all. It actually became a very core part of me playing this game, because it was almost like with each prompt I was becoming more comfortable with what I was able to produce, and I was happy with what I was able to create. It kind of like helped me wash away a little bit of my self-conscious feelings about drawing, and especially drawing and then showing people what I created. So with that all being said, let's talk about what a prompt actually looks like in the Bonsai Diary. So this is the first prompt you are given. It's also kind of like this is how you play this game style page. Each prompt you are given is a 2-page spread. The left page is where you're going to actually draw your tree, and creating your tree is actually incredibly simple. The first prompt is going to ask you to make a single pen stroke, and then every time you go to the next prompt, you are going to flip the page. You are going to trace whatever strokes you made in the previous tree, and then you are going to add on a stroke or two. And don't worry, the prompt tells you how many strokes you're supposed to be making, so you always can keep track of how you're supposed to be growing your tree. The left side also is usually filled with different tips and tricks and just other helpful advice to help grow your tree. Along with that, sometimes it just has a story or just some quotes. It's actually quite surprising what you can find on your prompts, which creates this really interesting dynamic between this tree that you are cultivating that won't change that much. It will change, but it's really the actual prompts and what you are given that will change the most. It's very much like life, and I'll talk about that a little bit more when I talk about my wrap up of this game. On the right side of our prompt, we are given our more traditional journaling aspects of this game. We are given a place for our grower's name. We are also given some prompts to fill out. So now with the basics out of the way, I want to talk about my playthrough and experience with the Bonsai Diary, because like I said, it was wonderful. It was very, very meaningful. Now, I did do something that I would not recommend. I played through the entirety of the base of this game in 3 to 4 hours in one session, because that's how hooked to this game I was. I actually was talking to Gene Koo in an email just last week, and I told them that's what I did, and they're like, yeah, most people don't do that. They recommend spacing it out, and if I could start over again with this game, that's what I would do. not because my experience wasn't fantastic, but because I wish I would have had more time between prompts. With the first prompt, we are asked to create our first grower, and the game asks us to either create a fictional persona or use our own name. And as someone who does love journaling games and has played quite a bit of them, I've never really used myself as a character, but I thought, why not? So I gave the first grower my name. I also sent the year in 1999, a time when I was a kid, and the first couple questions asked me, where did I find the seed and what did I want or imagine this tree would grow into, which was a very interesting prompt, especially because I chose myself as a kid. I had to not think about what I, the player at this current time, wanted for this tree, but what would a kid version of myself want for this tree to happen? What were my hopes and dreams as a kid, which have changed over time? The thing about this game is it kept surprising me. It kept surprising me with how it not only made me think about what it was presenting itself as a game, but also it surprised me on how much reflection I was doing on my own life, because just with the first grower myself, I went through prompts as a child, and then me as a teenager, and then me as an adult, and then me even in the future, and what that would look like. And it had me reflecting while also drawing and creating and painting this tree, this thing that I was self-conscious about. And like I said earlier, by the third page of this reflection and creation of this tree, I had completely forgot that I was self-conscious about drawing. And there was a point later on in the game where I was like, this doesn't look like a bonsai tree. What am I doing wrong? It didn't matter anymore because I was so enthralled with these prompt questions. This game does something that is very interesting that I really want to talk about. And to explain what I'm trying to say, I gotta kind of talk about something else for a bit. I really hope that this review isn't all over the place, because that's kind of how I felt about this game, but in the best way possible. This is a stream of consciousness game. So, all art, film, painting, sculpture, poetry, music, tabletop games, they all ask the person viewing them, playing them, experiencing them, to give a small part of themselves to that piece of art. Not in a way where you lose it, but it's almost like this conversation that you might not even know you're having. When you watch a film, the film is asking you to take your own personal experiences, your own lived experiences, and those experiences are going to be in conversation with what the film is presenting, and when they collide, that is going to give you your thoughts on said piece of art. It is a conversation, it is this dialogue, and it's a thing that all art does. No matter if you experience something, you are human, you are going to take your experiences and you are going to reflect them against whatever you are experiencing. And that's just how it works. Great art, at least great art to me, is art that realizes that conversation between the viewer and the piece of art is happening and tries to explore it, tries to, push it a bit more, to really push that idea that the person who is experiencing your art is also experiencing a piece of your art that only the person viewing it can experience because they are bringing their own point of view into it. And like I said, great art understands that conversation, and that's what the Bonsai Diary is doing. Like I said, the prompts, they don't change in this game. If I played this game again, I know what prompts are going to be there, but when you first play them, they're surprising. They're jarring sometimes. They are sometimes very grand, almost like explosive prompts. They are asking you to think about things that you weren't thinking about in the previous page, and there's a contrast to that, because the contrast to that is the actual creation of the bonsai tree, the actual creation that you are doing as the player. Because every time I'd go to answer a prompt, I would spend 5-10 minutes creating my tree, tending to it, adding things to it, just looking at it, just being happy that it existed. And that stayed consistent. The game then, after, you would create, tend to your tree for the prompt would then ask you those prompts. And it does this thing as a journaling game where the tree itself becomes part of those prompts. It becomes this abstract prompt, because not only are you answering those prompt questions, you're also thinking about the tree that you just created, the tree that you just tended to then answer those prompts, meaning that each person is going to have a unique experience when they play this game, because this game understands that conversation between art and the viewer, and it brings that conversation to life by adding in this element of creation that the viewer is doing by creating that tree, because that tree that is being created can only be created by the person playing this game. And I hope this conversation isn't too like in the clouds right now, because I've been really trying to think about how I wanted to talk about this game. And it's just doing something so beautiful, in which it is inviting the player to create, and it's aware of that creation and using that creation and that conversation to then add to the prompts, which creates this incredibly meaningful experience in which you're answering prompts using the thing you just created and your own past memories and your own past experiences. If you couldn't tell, I absolutely adore this game. Like I said, I played through it 3 to 4 hours of just sitting here listening to music, just exploring what it meant to be me as a kid, then me as a teenager, then me as an adult, and then what does it mean when I'm no longer here? What does it mean when I'm no longer here and generations have passed, but this thing that I have created, is still around? And it became almost this like meta thing too, because I've been really self-reflecting on the videos I create on this channel lately, and it became really reflective of me as an artist and reflective as me as a creator and someone who talks about games and what that means and like what I'm doing here. And I can't recommend this game enough. If you like journaling games, you gotta check this game out. If you like tabletop games, you gotta check this out. If you are someone who likes artful, meaningful experiences, you gotta check this game out. If you even have a little bit of interest in checking this game out, you need to check this game out. It is something that is so truly unique and wonderful. And yeah, the rest of my playthrough, like I said, was unexpected. It was this conversation between artist and viewer and creator. It was this experience that had me going through time spans while still creating this tree. I'm gonna wrap up this video now because I feel like I am getting a little bit too much in the clouds right now. But if you want to check out the Bonsai Diary, I'm going to list a couple shops down below that you can check this game out at. Along with that, if you want to check out the PDF of the Bonsai Diary, I'm also going to link the itch.io page in which you can pick up a PDF. Once again, thank you to Gene Koo for sending me a copy of this game. I am very, very happy to have experienced it. And yeah, that's the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, be excellent to each other.